good morning, good morning, good morning. God bless. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Saturday? I am up with a Saturday devotional. I don't know who needs to hear it. I don't know who it's for, but the Lord woke me up. I was going to sleep in until it was time for me to hit the highway and go to work, but here I am. Like I said, I never know who needs a pick-me-up. I never know who needs a word. I never know who needs to be encouraged. I never know who needs to reset their priorities. I don't know those things. I just walk in obedience. The Bible said obedience is better than a sacrifice. So I wanted to be obedience at the sacrifice of me laying there just still sleeping until it's time for me to get up for work. So today is September 10th, and I'm reading out of Jesus in Red. And the title of today's devotional is The Irrelevant Cross. The Irrelevant Cross. And if you hear a little noise in the background, the sister had to have her fan on, but I have it on low, but I hope I'm speaking loud enough, where you can hear me. But let's get into it. It said, "And heal the sick there, and say to them, the kingdom of God has come near to you." Luke 10:9. Every time somebody hears the biblical gospel, the kingdom of God has come close to them. However, most don't value this pearl of great price. The reason they don't value it, the reason they don't value it is because they don't understand its value. Sometimes people don't appreciate who God has put in their life because they don't see the value. Most of us wouldn't value a parachute that sit at the back of a plane while we are eating delicious food and watching an interesting movie, which means when we're caught up and we're doing what we want to do, we don't see no danger in that. We're not looking at that parachute and thinking about its value. We're not sitting up thinking about, man, what if this plane go down? You don't be thinking about that. When you caught up in what you're doing, you ain't worrying about no danger. You ain't worried about nothing. If the flight is smooth and all is well on board, when you good, you ain't thinking about nothing negative. You ain't thinking about nothing happening. When you go on grocery shopping, you ain't thinking about a shooter coming in. You ain't thinking about that. When you send your kids to school, you ain't thinking about the danger that they can be in. You're not thinking about that. Why should we give a second thought? The parachute is irrelevant. Sometimes danger is irrelevant. Sometimes people is irrelevant. If they're not serving a certain purpose in your life, they become irrelevant. They have no need of you. However, if we were told that we had to jump out of a plane, suddenly a parachute would have more value to us. It will become the most important thing on the plane. You'll forget about everything. If you had to jump, if that plane was on fire and it said you had to go, listen, now that parachute has value. Christ's death on the cross is of little value to sinners and to some Christians who are enjoying the pleasure of sin. Sometimes we done got so caught up in this world that we done forgot about the sacrifice, the suffering, and the dying on the cross. We forget about those things. The cross is irrelevant to them. Once they understand they have to face a holy God on the day of wrath, and only Jesus can forgive their sins and grant them the gifts of everlasting life, suddenly the gospel becomes a personal life and death issue. Sometimes a situation have to be created. Sometimes a certain situation have to happen before we begin to see the importance, the relevance of it all. You hear some people say, "Oh, that's irrelevant." They irrelevant. What they talking about is irrelevant. But you never know. One day. Well, anyway. Now it is the most, important thing in life. But God forbid that I should boast except in the Christ of our Lord Jesus Christ, by whom the world has been crucified to me, and I to the world. Galatians 6:14. Now it's time to do some soul searching. Do I value the work of the cross in my life? That's a personal question. You evaluate yourself and see what's more valuable to you. The sacrifice, the suffering, him dying. Is that more important than the things of this world? You see so many people is just working themselves to the bone, trying to gain something that will never be theirs. It's not going to profit. Yeah, it'll profit you a little bit here, because people's able to see what you have and what you got and what you're driving and what you're living in and what you're wearing, but it has no value. It has no spiritual value. And here's the prayer. Father, thank you for the unspeakable gift. The unspeakable gift is that gift, the cross. You just don't hear too much about that being preached anymore. That was the unspeakable gift, was the cross. And so the title of that's the end of it. The irrelevant cross. Something that we take for granted. Something that we have now just put on the shelf. Now something that we just overlook. Something that we don't think about. And I wrote down, the Lord had me to write down a couple of definitions. The definition for, irrelevant is when if something that is irrelevant, you mean that it's not important. At that moment, it has no value. It's like foreign. You ever heard people say, "Oh, that's foreign language." It's insignificant. What they talking about is insignificant. It's not even important in this situation. They're not even important in my life. It's pointless. Pointless. Don't even think about it. You can't do nothing with what they just said. What they got going on. What they doing is pointless. Don't even dwell on it. Oh, it's unnecessary. They doing too much. They saying too much. It's unnecessary. All that's not necessary. Trivial. Oh, that's small. Look at what we got going on. That's trivial. We ain't gonna even, we ain't gonna even waste our time on that. That's small. Do you know who we are? Do you know what we got? Do you know what we have? We ain't gonna dwell on the small things, big eyes and little U's. And the definition of relevant is something that is relevant to a situation or person, is important or significant in that situation or to that person. That's the definition of relevant. When something is relevant, it's compatible, it's relatable. Oh, I can relate to that. Okay. When you go through certain situations and or you hear someone going through certain situations and you've gone through it, you can relate to that. You understand what they're going through. You understand what they're feeling. You understand the emotions. Suitable. Suitable. That's another definition for relevant. It's suitable. It's perfect. We good. We ain't got to worry about nothing. Everything is where it should be. Let's roll out. Proper. Again, everything is in this proper order. We ain't stressing over nothing. We got everything that we need. It's proper. It's relevant. We good. We got our job. We got our home. We got our car. We got our insurance. We got 401k. We got our Social Security. We got our husband. We good. We good. So those other things that we need to be worrying about, our souls, our lives, how we living, all that stuff that's irrelevant. That's unnecessary. That's trivial. That's insignificant. We ain't got to worry about that kind of stuff right now. We got it going on right now. And he had me to write down the definition of crucified is to be put to death, persecuted, tortured. I remember growing up, and I often wondered, why, Lord, why can't I I just never felt like I could fit in. I would go to, if anyone on here remember Miss Shaw's, I mean, I used to try to sneak and go there. And I don't care how dark it was in that room. They knew I was in there. It was like a light was shining and it's pitch black in the room. But I don't care. I would be tucked away in a corner and they would still come and say, you gotta go. You gotta go. You're too young. You can't be here. And I never could understand because there was always this young lady and she was younger than me. And she always got to stay. But I don't care what corner I went to. I don't care if I got up and danced. A lot of time I got there and I just sat there. I didn't move. Somehow they found me. So sometimes God have you, even though you don't understand what's going on, why you don't fit in, why you don't have certain desires, why you don't feel the desire to do certain things and get into certain things and indulge in certain things, because he has already set you aside. He had already put that mark on me. And even though I tried to smoke, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was wasting money. I was trying to drink. I would drink a cooler and never would even finish it. I tried to do those things. I wanted to fit in. I didn't want to feel awkward or look awkward, but I just never could fit in. And I never understood why. I often felt like, and I would pray and I would say, God, what is wrong with me? Why don't I desire this? Why don't I desire that? Why don't I want to get into that or involve myself? I never understood. But those things, they just never really had an important, they just didn't play an important role in my life. And I was pretty much a homebody like I am today. Not much has changed. But I thank God. And but I wanted to read this too. This is Galatians 6:14. But I'm reading this in like a study Bible. It said the world is full of enticement. Daily we are confronted with suitable cultural pressures and overt. The only way to escape these destructive influences is to ask God to help us to crucify our interest in them, just as Paul did. And that's what we have to do. We have to pray. I was one of those ones that I didn't indulge myself in a lot of stuff. And it wasn't nothing that had to do with me. I couldn't even understand it. So, I didn't have nothing to do with it. It was by the grace of God. He called me before I was in my mother's womb, before the foundation of this world. It's just certain things that I just couldn't indulge myself into. And I'm not here to judge anyone else. It's not even about that. But what I'm saying is there's so many things in this world that entice us, that get our attention, that take our focus off of the cross, off of what's important. And he said we have to pray and we have to ask God to crucify our interests. Lord, take that interest of fornication, of adultery, of lying, of tearing down my brother and sister, backbiting. Lord, I need you to crucify that part of me. Sometimes we just got to be honest. Some things just need to be put to death. Some things just need to be nailed to the cross. Some things just need to be, rooted out of us. But we have to be honest. And we got to acknowledge that those things are there. And so we have to pray and we have to ask God, Lord, crucify those things that is not of you. Crucify those things that you're not pleased with. And bring back those things that I feel that's irrelevant. And that's how I live. And that's how I love. And that's how I respect. We done lost interest in things that is irrelevant. That's irrelevant. Excuse me. And we're so focused on things that matters not. I often wondered why, Lord, why can't I? Sometimes you see people and they just work themselves to the bone. I was talking with a lady at work, and I'm getting ready to get off here. And she was beginning to talk about her retirement, being able, to get her Social Security. And I think she said if she retired, I think within a year, I can't really remember, she said she would get like 900 and I think she said $87 or $88 or something like that. But if she worked 3 years, she would get 1,000. Okay, this is lady, she's up in age. She's already humped over, can't hardly, work. And I said, you would work an extra 3 years for what, 15 more dollars? You see how we have been programmed to just overwork ourselves for something that we will never gain, to overwork ourselves for something that will never be ours? Only thing we're doing, we're leasing this stuff. But we're so bent on wanting to look like the Joneses. We're so busy wanting to look like the next door neighbor. If they got a new car, we want a new one parked in the yard. That's just foolishness. And so when I began to talk to her, she was like, I've never looked at it that way. What does it prosper a man to gain the world and then you just lose your soul? Prosper all of this stuff and you're not going to take any of it with you. I don't know. That's just something God is, I don't understand it. The Bible said, seek the kingdom first. Seek him first. A lot of us is toiling and we're tearing our bodies down for things that God is saying, I'm just going to add to you if you seek me first, and I tell you how to get it. I tell you how to go about it. But this flesh, we want it now. This flesh will tell you, work that overtime, and you don't even need it. That's overflow. But who you going to bless with that overflow? Nobody. So we're toiling for things that God, and working for things and overworking ourselves for things that God is saying, those things are just added things. There's other things that we can be doing for the kingdom, but because we're overworking ourselves to gain things of this world that we cannot take with us, that we will never own, we're losing sight of what's important. And the kingdom is laying waste while we're trying to gain things of this world that we will never possess, that we will never own, that we are going to leave behind. The cross. The title was The Irrelevant Cross. We got to seek the kingdom first. We got to go back to what's relevant, what's more important. It's not the things of this world. I just read that scripture. We have to pray and we have to ask God to crucify our interest in the things of this world. Some of us are so caught up and making sure we driving the best car, living in the best home, driving, wearing the finest of the clothes. And God is not against us having nice things. He's not against that. But when it becomes more important than the kingdom, he has a problem with that. And we should have a problem with that. Do we spend as many time? Do we spend as many hours praying and seeking God's face as we do on these jobs? Are we putting in overtime, seeking his face, seeing what he wants us to do, seeing who he wants us to pray for? We are focusing and we are trying to possess the wrong things. We are living in times where, you may not live long enough to have your Social Security. By the time it's time for you to draw your Social Security, it may not even be available. Then what? Then what do you do? What do you do then? My son, he wrote a song and it said, what do you do when your back is up against the wall? What do you do? Beautiful song. What do you do? And it says, call upon Jesus. There's going to come a time that our money has no value. It's going to come a time where cars and houses, it's not going to matter. We're going to have to call upon Jesus. It's going to come a time where that cross is going to become relevant again. It's going to matter again. It's going to serve its purpose again. We got to put it back. We got to put the cross. We got to put its meaning back where it needs to be. Back in position. If you want to make kingdom, if you want to make heaven your home, you got to ask God to crucify your interest for the things of this world. I never understood why I didn't fit in, why I couldn't do certain things, why I couldn't go certain places. I always felt like something was wrong with me. I never knew that I was just set aside. I was just separated. I was already called. I was already selected. I didn't know. I thought something was seriously wrong with me. But God has been letting me know, no, I set you aside for a reason, for a purpose. And I thank God. Because there was a less wall that he didn't have to tear down. There was other walls that he had to tear down internally. So this was a good one. This was the irrelevant cross. Most of us don't value a parachute that sits in the back while we enjoying the things of this world. A lot of times, things that should be relevant, things that should be important, but because we enjoying the things of this world, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we can't be so caught up in the things of this world that we're not about our Father's business. We done lost focus to soul, people dying all around us. And we're somewhere off enjoying the things of this world. The devil has, we just been rocked to sleep. Let's just call it what it is. We have been put to sleep. Now we're just out to gain things of this world. We're out now to try to get every dollar there is to be made. But even while you on that job, how many people are you witnessing to? How many people are you encouraging to come to Christ, to give their lives to Christ? It's okay to be on your job, but are you still about your Father's business? They see me coming. They said, there go the light. Like, look, I'm a light. I'm not the light. So even my customers, they can just see it. I just begin to talk to them and they would tell me, that's why I came to your lane. That's why I knew it was some reason, because sometimes they'll come because we have a automated voice that tells them what lane to come to. And sometimes they will dismiss. They won't even hear that voice to say, go to lane 9. They'll come to lane 7. And sometimes I be looking at them like side eye, like, you ain't, it didn't tell you to come to my lane. It said lane 9. I'm lane 7. And they'll begin to just pour out and talk to me. Then I have to get myself together, like, Lord, forgive me. And they would say, I knew it was some reason why I had to come to your lane. See, we got to always be ready in season and out of season. When they supposed to be there and when they're not supposed to be there. We're supposed to always be ready to give someone a word of encouragement, because I never know who I'm going to encounter while I'm at work. I don't know what day they done had. I don't know what it took for them to get there. I don't know. So I have to always be in position that when someone comes through, and sometimes they come through and they just tell me so much, I'm just like, oh, Lord. And I just begin to just give what thus said the Lord, what he tells me to give them. And they always leave different than the way they was when they came in. They always said, man, I needed this. And that just lifts my spirit even the more. And that's what it's all about. If you're still about your Father's business while you're on your job, while you're working that overtime, that's what it's all about. It's not about trying to, I want more money. You're not going to take it with you. And the more you gain, are you blessing anybody? Are you helping anybody? Are you reaching out to anybody? I'm talking about, it's easy to help those that if you give them something, they can give it back. Or if they call and ask to borrow something, you looking for it back. But how many times are you helping someone that you know they can't give it back? They can't pay it back. How many of those people are you reaching out to? How many of those people are we helping? I said, Lord, if you bless me, I want to be one of those ones that just go out and just be a blessing. Just take the load. Just take the weight. Why? Because I've been there. And I know what it feels like to struggle, to not have, to have the 2 fish and the 5 loaves, and all my bills is way more than. I know what it feels like. And I would love to just be that one to just take that load off of someone else. I would love to be that one to just multiply what they have. I would love to be that one. And I just believe one day God is going to open up a door that I'm going to be able to do that, because that is my desire. This ain't something that I'm just talking to sound good. This is in my spirit. This has been in my heart. Because when you have been in a certain place, you know what it feels like to be there. When you have been one of the ones that's been overlooked, you know what it feels like to be overlooked. When you've been the one that's been cast aside, you know what it feels like to be cast aside. When you've been one that's been looked over, you know what it feels like to be looked over. And I just want to be one of those ones that makes a difference. I want to be that one to put a smile on someone's face. God told me. He said, when you go to work, he said, start putting a few dollars in your pocket. So when someone comes through that line, my God, and they're not able to pay, or they running a little short, you make up the difference. And I've had to do that. And I've done that. And they was grateful. The smile, you would have thought I had gave them $1 million. But it wasn't me. It was God. He unctioned me to do that. And even if I forget, I'll go back I need to go to my locker, and I'll put a few dollars in my pocket. So if somebody comes through, they don't have to leave the same way they came in. If they came in for something and they don't have the money, they're not going to leave there without it. And I thank God, because I didn't even think about that. But now I make sure that I have enough, that if somebody comes through and they need extra or they need a little, I got them. That's what it's all about. So with that being said, I got to get off here. I pray that everyone have an amazing day. I pray that I said something that will help someone, that would pierce someone's heart, that would help someone to look at things from a different perspective. And let's get back to making the cross relevant. We have made it irrelevant for so many years. Let's get back to making it relevant. But this was good. This was good. I wasn't intending on going down that way, but I always just tell God, just have your way. Whichever way you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, whatever you want me to say, I'm just here to be obedient. Because again, I never know my audience. I never know who's going to show up. I never know who's going to press the replay. I never know. I just want to be obedient. And whoever needs to hear this message, this devotional, I just want them to receive it. And just however way God ministered to them, it has nothing to do with me. And so I pray something was said that will help someone, that will give someone hope, that will have someone to think, you know what? I never thought about it that way. You know what? I never looked at it that way. God had to show me some things, and I'm like, Lord, I never seen it that way, But with that being said, now I understand why I couldn't fit in. Now I understand why I couldn't do certain things. Now I understand why I couldn't go certain places. Now I understand why I couldn't hook up with this one, and hook up with that. Now I understand. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And all along, I thought it was something wrong with me. But he said in his word, before you was in your mother's womb, I knew you. I knew who you was going to be. And I thank God. He knew, because I certainly didn't know. But I'm just grateful this morning. I thank God for Pastor Nance hopping on once again. I hope don't nobody get offended when I call your name out. It's not anything negative, but I do understand that people don't have to support you. People don't have to stop by and say anything. People can just go on by. But I thank God for each and every one that thinks enough of me, to think enough of God, to want to just stop through and just say, hey, I'm here. So it means more than you know. So I thank God for you. You showing up is not in vain. It's not going unnoticed. I appreciate you. I pray that you have an amazing day. However way God see fit to allow you to enjoy it, whether you on the road, whether you with family, just however. But the main thing is the Bible said, let us esteem others more than we esteem ourselves. Let's get back to looking upon the things of other people. Sometimes we have more than we even need, but yet and still we don't look out and try to see who we can bless, who we can help, who we can just take some weight off. You know, sometimes people just wondering, man, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that? And you sitting up and able, God has blessed you to be able. And sometimes God will overflow us just to see if we will flow onto someone else. Sometimes you're being set up to see how you're going to respond. Will you allow your overflow to flow on to someone else? That's a question. But with that being said, I'm going to hop off. Again, I pray everyone have an amazing day. Don't allow no negativity. Don't you be negative. Speak life over your situation, your circumstance. No matter what you're going through, no matter what you're facing, speak life. Because life and death is in the power of your tongue. What you speak is what you give birth to. What you speak is what you'll harvest. Until next time, everyone, be blessed.